process of me cutting the feet out of my pantyhose while trying to get the prototype made before I launched it was 2 years. So there was a year solid of me driving in North Carolina on the weekends and at night or taking time off from work to go and work on the prototype, get it made. I learned so many things that I didn't know as a consumer. It had never dawned on me that men were making all of our undergarments. So I learned very quickly that the industry had been taking an average waistband size between a small and an extra large and putting the same waistband on every pair. Exactly, that's what I said. I said, you know, that's not working. We're really uncomfortable. And they were doing it to cut cost in production. So I immediately changed that. In a Spanx waistband, a size small gets a small, medium gets a medium, and so on. Makes perfect sense, right? I also realized that they had been putting a tiny rubber cord inside the waistbands that had been there forever. Well, we had made so many advancements in yarns that they no longer needed the rubber cord, but no one had stopped to say, do we still need to put this? So I immediately took the rubber cord out of it. And another thing I learned was the way that they were doing sizing was just so, blew me away. They would figure out a size by putting them on plastic forms. And they would all put it on a plastic form. They had different size forms, and they would stand back with their clipboards and go, yep, that's a size medium. And I'd lean in and I'd go, ask her how she feels. So at Spanx, we put our product on women. My mother, my grandmother who's 90, my sister-in-law Cassie, I mean all of my friends, the girls at Spanx, we're testing it on real women. And we want to test it more than 2 seconds to say, yep, that looks like a medium. We have people wear it for a week, wash it, tell us if it rolled, did it move, did it stay in place, how did you feel? Very concerned with Spanx garments and how they made you feel.
Spanx started way before I cut the feet out of my pantyhose. That's the soundbite in the press that everybody's talked about for almost 20 years. But it actually started fundamentally on when I was 16. I worked on mindset for myself, and I'm such a believer in mindset is almost everything. And it just happened to be a set of circumstances. I was riding my bike with one of my best friends at 16, and she was run over by a car and killed in front of me. And then a few months later, my dad left home, and my parents separated and ultimately got divorced. And when my dad moved out, he came into my bedroom and he handed me a cassette tape series called How to Be a No Limit Person by Wayne Dyer. And he said, sweetie, I wish I discovered this when I was your age instead of the age of 40. And then he moved out. And so I started listening to this How to Be a No Limit Person, which was talking about visualization, law of attraction, not caring about what other people think about you, the fear, not being consumed by the fear of failure. And it just, the clouds parted for me, and I thought, I've spent a lot of time being taught what to think, but no one's really teaching me how to think. And at 16, that was so incredibly important. So in this digital platform, it's kind of passing on a lot of these insights that deal with mindset that I think is the real reason that Spanx exists.
Packaging. What am I going to do for the packaging? I thought as a consumer, I didn't know anything else. I'd never actually taken a marketing class either in my life. But I knew as a consumer, I was frustrated. I was going into the hosiery departments and everything looked the same. It was the same beige package or the same white package with the same half-naked woman that'd been on there for 30 years. And I couldn't tell what I was buying. So I said to myself, I'm gonna do this different. I want it to be my favorite color, red. No one had ever done red in the hosiery space before. I want it to be bold, stand out. I knew that if I got a chance to be on the shelf with no money to advertise, it had to jump out and say, I'm new, I'm different, try me. So I put 3 animated, illustrated cartoon women on the package, which had also never been done before. There had only ever been photography on these hosiery packages. I was working on it every night after work on my friend's computer. She had just finished graphic design school. So I would come home and we would sit side by side, and I was cutting out lips and eyes, and I was very excited about how to make it design-wise. I wanted it to feel like you were buying a present for yourself instead of a commodity that we dreaded.
Growing up, my dad used to encourage my brother and me to fail. So at the dinner table, he would actually ask us, what did you fail at this week? And if we didn't have something to tell him, he would actually be disappointed. And I can remember coming home from school and being like, Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible. And he'd be like, way to go, and high-five me. And it was such a gift what he was doing. I didn't realize it at the time, but he was redefining failure for me. And so failure became not about the outcome, but about not trying. And so, the fear of failure, as we all know as entrepreneurs, is one of the greatest fears in life. It's one of the things that stops us in our tracks and keeps us from trying something. And so I incorporate that in my philosophy at Spanx. We celebrate failures, we talk about them, we have oops meetings where I'll announce the oops that I have, and sometimes we have fun with it. We'll even attach theme songs to our oops and we'll play them in front of the whole company. But I think it's just so important to try to get the people that you work with to take risks and to be entrepreneurial and not live in a place of I want to protect my job and feel like I'm not safe if I make mistakes.
Many aspiring entrepreneurs, even in this room, struggle to find their initial idea. How do you constantly find ways to invent new products, and where does your inspiration come from?
I think of a lot of ideas at traffic lights. I think of them all the time in different places, and I think it's part of just being hyper observant. I like to find white space. I pay attention to what are things that haven't evolved and why. There's certain things in our society that updates itself and changes and constantly, and then there's certain things that it's not. And so I'll ask myself questions all day, every day. It's just the way my brain works. Like I could even be looking at a table and be like, why is the table like that? When was the table first created? Is that the actual best design for a table? Or could there be something different? And Spanx went into men's, and that was randomly how that happened, was because I got curious that the man's undershirt was created in 1918 and no one had paid any attention to it since. It was literally the same thing. And so I just, talked to my brother and my husband about it, and their undershirts, the neck stretched out, or they were boxy and bulky underclothes. And I thought, I'm just gonna add a little bit of Lycra to the cotton undershirt for men, and so the neck won't stretch out, and I'm gonna taper it in at the waist. So ideas come to me like that. Ideas are
clearly I love it.
I have my assistant, who's my right hand, Lisa. She's been my right hand for 16 years, can attest to this. But I have 99 pages. I don't know why it's 99, but she told me the other day it's 99 pages, single space typed of ideas. I need one more idea. So I think of ideas constantly on airplanes and car, talking to somebody, and I email it to myself, and then I just keep them and log them.
Okay, so I've written the patent, I'm submitting it. I have the prototype, I'm getting it almost perfect to where I want it to be. I gotta come up with a name. So I had been writing down on scrap pieces of paper for that entire year really bad names. In my car, on a plane, pulling off the side of the road. And finally, I narrowed down my thinking on what I wanted to name my invention by this. I recognized that the two most recognized names in the world at the time were Kodak and Coca-Cola. So I started playing with them in my mind. Why are they the two most recognized names in the world? What do they have in common? And they both have a significant K sound to them. And I actually had read that the man who started Kodak liked the K sound so much that he put the K in the beginning and the end of the word and started playing with letters in the alphabet to come up with the word Kodak. I also knew that Coca-Cola had such a strong K presence to it. And I have a bunch of friends that are stand-up comedians, and it's just this weird trade secret among comedians that the K sound will make your audience laugh. So it was determined. For good luck, my invention was going to have the K sound in it. And I added it. I decided, okay, once I decided that, I was clearer on my thinking for the name. It came to me while sitting in traffic in Atlanta. I got very lucky. I was sitting there and just the word Spanx came across the dashboard. And at the very last second, I went home and I knew it was right. And I changed the KS to an X at the last minute because I had done research that made-up words do better for products than real words do, and they're also easier to trademark. I didn't tell one person the name. I got on uspto.gov, which stands for United States Patent and Trademark Office.gov, which was my best friend at the time. I was always on that website. I did a search. I entered my credit card, and for I think $250 or $300, I hit send, and I owned the name Spanx. A month later, I got it in the mail.
I know that as part of the Spanx Training Bootcamp, one of the mandatory learning modules is comedy that
Yep.
every employee has to go through. So why is that important?
I didn't understand why everybody was so serious. So I thought, you know what? I don't subscribe to the fact that you have to act serious to be taken seriously. And I like to laugh at myself. When I worked in corporate America for a long time, and everybody was super uptight and super serious, and there was no humor and there was no levity, and then everybody at like 5 o'clock became ragingly hilarious. I was like, what's going on? And so the alcohol probably helped at 5, but anyway, I wanted to use humor, and I love to do that in the workplace. And yes, we have a boot camp at Spanx, a training boot camp when you come on board, and one of the modules is doing stand-up comedy. And I've used the comedic stuff that I did in my marketing. I mean, I wrote, "Don't worry, we've got your butt covered," right on my package when I first started in 2000, which was not very common to do, especially taking it to the Neiman Marcus to sell it. I named my company Spanx, which was, made people laugh, and believe it or not, it was very shocking at the time that I named the company Spanx. I actually had people hang up on me often. I would call them and say, "Hi, I'm Sarah from Spanx," and then they'd hang up. And I'd call back and I go, "I'm serious, I'm a real company and my company's called Spanx." And they go, "Oh, I thought you were prank calling me." And then, naming my products, I broke into the world's most boring category. I mean, can we talk about shapewear? Who wants to talk about shapewear and undergarments? But I named it Power Panties. I started naming all my products, and it made people laugh, and it gave so much energy. And then all of a sudden you had Gwyneth Paltrow and Julia Roberts flashing their Spanx on red carpets and saying, "I'm wearing Spanx," like all these celebrities. And I think it's because I chose to do humor, and people wanted to participate in that. There was energy around that. So I use it in every aspect of the marketing. I use humor to turn around a situation when I'm bombing it. It might give me a second chance. When I cold called to sell fax machines door to door for 7 years, I learned very quickly that if I could make somebody laugh or smile, I'd get another 30 seconds before they'd slam the door in my face. It helps you move through pain. It's a wonderful tool.